reporting a possible molestation to us, rather than do what we tell people to do, which is call the DSS 24-hour anonymous hotline, or call the police anonymously. All police departments have anonymous tips. But we have three basic community programs. One is, the first is education. In that program, we contact the community organizations, civic organizations, faith-based organizations, affinity organizations, neighborhood associations, and we offer to present our community safety curriculum to them. Community curriculum. It's called Creating a Community Safety Plan, and it consists of 6 presentations about keeping children safe. We're going to add a 7th, which will be when a child goes missing. But the first one is a very general one that talks about what to do if you see something happening and you think maybe you should call 911, but you're not sure. And then we just progress on identifying child molesters, what are the characteristics, through a basic curriculum. We want to come back to the organizations and make another presentation every 2 or 3 months, or whenever it's convenient for them. We, for example, have talked to 2 or 3 Optimist clubs in our areas, to the Rotary Club in Huntsville, Missouri, and the Interfaith Council, just a number of organizations. And we'll be going back to each of those to make another presentation. The series should take about a year or 2, depends on how often they invite us back. So in the course of doing that, 2 things happened that we did not really anticipate. We may have expected them, that they might happen, but we didn't anticipate it to the point of having any sort of response mechanism in place. First was that people who had been molested as children, and of course there are millions upon millions of people who are molested as children, but people in the audience will actually come up to us and want to talk about the experience. And the other thing that happened that you're referring to is that someone who had been in one of our presentations and had our material, which gives them the contact information, sent us an email saying that there appeared to be child prostitution and perhaps pornography operations going on in the neighborhood they lived in, and what they were afraid for their own safety, and what would we suggest they do? Well, of course, we emailed them right back and said, right away, call the anonymous tip line at the police department, and then pick up the phone and call the DSS anonymous hotline and talk to them about what is happening. In other words, alert the authorities, and do it right now, because the 6-year-old child you're talking about, the 6-year-old little girl, appears to be, from the description of what's happening, appears to be in grave danger. And then, regrettably, then we found out the next day, we did follow up with it, that they didn't do that. Now, why they didn't do that, I don't know. And in fact, what they had omitted from their email was that the last time they saw the little girl, she was being thrown screaming into an SUV and driven on. And that's when at that point, we forwarded the email to the anonymous line of the sheriffs. We sent it to someone we know at the police department, and we contacted Melinda Kidder, who's a private investigator, who's an associate of Grandparents and Others on Watch, and asked for her advice. Because, as I say, we don't have a policy to handle these unanticipated things that happen. We believe this will continue to happen because we are community-based. We are people in the community, and we're not an official. We're not a government organization. So we're struggling with what to do there, and eventually we'll formulate a policy.
What would you like to see happen in relation to this case and cases like it?
You mean in relation to the exploitation of children?
Yes, absolutely.
Sexually?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the issue there is what can happen. From Grandparents and Others on Watch, from our point of view, And we think that, we've spent a couple of years researching this. I mean, we've looked at it from all possible angles, I think. There is no remedy for the personality disorders that present in child molesters. There is no remedy, no clinical remedy. And the recidivism rate is must approach 100%. 52% of all child molesters who are convicted and serve time, 52% of them will be rearrested for the same offense in a 25-year period after their release. And that 25-year period marker is important to keep in mind. So what we would like to see, we have always taken the position that child rape, sexual exploitation, and molestation, child pornography is part of that, those categories, is the moral equivalent of murder. And when the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that the death penalty in jurisdictions where it could be applied could not be applied, they did a terrible disservice to justice. And it's puzzling because I'm not particularly a death penalty supporter, but if the jurisdiction in which a child is raped has is granted the legal right to order someone to be put to death, that's the highest penalty that you can mete out for a crime, and that is the penalty that should have been, that should be available. Whatever the highest penalty is, whatever the penalty for first-degree premeditated murder is in a jurisdiction, that's what we'd like to see the courts hand down. If the question is, what do we anticipate is going to happen? We know that the jails are already crowded. We know that very often the crime doesn't necessarily go unpunished, but it's certainly likely taken more lightly than we'd like to see. But at the very least, we want to see a stop to the plea downs. Too often a sex offender will plead down to a lesser charge, simple assault or something like that, and get out